Hi everybody, I'm Steve Diamond, the tennis director here at Worthington. This afternoon we're going to give you a little demo on how to use our ball machine. Our expert Jim Gelhar, who's been here as long as the club has been here and is a former pro and a ball machine expert, is going to go over the settings for you. Hopefully this will help you get a little better prepared for how to use the ball machine. So Jim, why don't you go ahead and start.
Okay, if you look, come up so everybody can take a peek. There's 7 numbers here. Can you see them right in this spot? Okay, number 1 is actually that alley over there. So now those numbers make sense. Number 2 is almost in the alley. Number 3 is right in the middle of the deuce court. Number 4 is right down the middle. Then you go back the other way. 5, it comes over on this side. 6 and 7. So when you set the ball machine, you'll notice that there are numbers here. So numbers you can set wherever you want. If you want it to go to the alley, you'll set this for number 1. There it is. The next one, number 2. Let's say all you want to do is practice those 2 shots. You don't want to do anything else. And you don't want to do all these numbers here. You go lazy and you say, is there an A there?
A, there's A.
That means again. So if it'll do these 2, then it'll repeat.
Oh.
If you want 4 different shots to repeat, after 4 shots you hit an A, it'll repeat that. So you don't have to run all 7 of them, okay? You're also going to see 2 switches here, a 1 switch and a 2 switch. Okay, everything right now is pointed to number 1. So once I set this thing with these columns, it'll do that to a tennis ball as long as it's set at 1. If I go to number 2, here's the dial set to do number 2, which is a different shot. So this machine has capability of giving you a different shot. Most ball machines are just the same old, same old, same old. And this machine can do something a little different. So when we, first of all, this is loaded with hopefully reasonably decent tennis balls. Every once in a while there'll be one with low compression, and that's the one that'll get stuck in the machine. And then if that happens, the on and off button, come on over here so everybody sees it. I would like somebody to turn it off right now.
Where's
If
the
you
button?
can,
Oh.
that's where you gotta find out. Turn it off. Very good. So once it's off, then you mess with trying to fix the machine, but never when it's on. Okay. So there is an on-off switch. The power is hooked up into the shed. So there's a utility plug in there in order to plug it in. So that's pretty set issue. Okay. So then there's also a remote control. Oh, by the way, this machine has been at Worthington for almost 20 years. And to have a machine be steady and reliable, they make a great product. The gentleman that sells it has helped us repair it a couple times, and we've had owners here also repair it. So this is a machine that Steve has a button. He will press, and as soon as he presses it, you'll hear a beep. And now, if you're on the other side, you know it's going to be kicking out a ball. Okay, then we got to decide, is that a nice ball? Is that going to a decent spot? It is not. Okay, so now you'll turn it off. So we need to do some work here. So if you look on the number, the top number, what does it say? Somebody read it and tell us.
Height.
Height. So that's the height of the net. But before that, you want to get a little more pace on the ball. So you can make the balls go pretty high for a lob, or you can make it go on the bottom of the net if you want. So we need to increase ball speed, which might be at 1. So can you hear the machine? The machine, all of a sudden you'll hear there's a wheel on it, and the wheel will spin faster. Okay, then there's another thing called spin. Our pro hits with a lot of top spin, he knows that. He also knows slice. So if you want to work on slice by going against Steve, you can hit this thing for back spin. If you want to work on top spin, you can put a little bit top spin or no spin at all. So there's numbers here, 1 through 8, and then you go either way. So we're going to put it in the middle, and then we're going to now see what happens when Steve presses the button. Don't worry, on 2. And we're going to see if this is any better. Nope. So we're going to add some more speed. Okay, now we're going
And
to
one
add
thing
some
you'll
height.
learn, when you have it in the on position, you can see the balls moving through and starting to
Ah. Okay, so that was better, right? There we go. So now a couple things to say before Steve clicks it up. So let's say you're out there and you're practicing your forehands, because that would be a good spot to do that, correct? Okay. How much should you wait before a ball to come to you? As soon as your shot passes its baseline, the next shot should be fed from the ball machine. If you are hitting the ball and the next one's right there to hit, you set it too soon. That's not realistic. And then when Steve is going to hit some balls, you'll see he works some footwork in. He just doesn't stand in the same spot and say, oh yeah, piece of cake. He's going to work some footwork so he gets to the ball and more realistic to what he's trying to improve his game on.
Because nobody that you play is going to hit the ball right to you just the way you like all the time. Mostly because they're not good enough to do that, because if they were good enough, they wouldn't do that in the first place. So get used to moving on the ball machine.
Okay, we're going to put this one at 5 and see what happens. Then we're going to go to 7. And then we'll go back to 3 and just see what this thing can do in a cycle. So this has lots of choices. And if there's 2 of you on the court, you can be alternating forehand, backhand, and you both can be working on a shot. Okay.
See the ball starting to move inside the pin?
So now you hit that, next ball coming, so we're going to increase the frequency. Okay, now the ball frequency is a little faster. It should be pumping a little sooner.
If you want more time in between, it's okay to give it a little more and just get yourself set. You don't want to be rushed.
Okay, so that's feeding balls that are reasonable. And now we'll click off. So I'm going to write those settings down that are reasonable. So when you come here, you put the settings at that number, and then you go from there rather than starting all over and saying, how does this work? So we're going to try and get a good setting thing for you, and we can leave it, print it, maybe whatever. So that's 1. Okay, now there's also a 2 here. And a 2 is this dial. So we're going to go real high and see if this can set up a lob. Tight. We'll go way high. Ball speed, somewhat in the middle, and spin. So let's see what happens on a 2 versus a 1.
Notice there are 2 beeps to turn it on, 1 beep when you're pausing.
So this should be a 1, I hope. Okay, so that ground stroke is reasonable. Also, it'd be reasonable for a volley. Now, pretty soon it should be a 2, so it should go up in the air a little bit. But we'll find out what the setting is. Okay, hasn't yet. Okay, now, obviously, obviously,
That's a little high.
that means it's 2. Where to go? Okay, now we'll see. Okay, so what we want to do is decrease the speed and still keep the height up so that somebody can hit an overhead. So let's see what happens here. So one of these, okay, I'll go number 2. Okay, that's somebody getting overhead. Now that's even too much. So I got to decrease the speed, and we're going to make a lot of 2s
There
here.
you go.
See
So
what
that's
happens.
the best one that they've
Okay,
had so
that's
far.
one
See,
with
that's the
overhead
spot
at.
where you can hit the overhead.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So what you don't want to do is make a ground stroke, and then the next ball is going up in the air, and the next feed's going to get you. So if you're going to do 2 different numbers, do it on the opposite side of the court. Let them maybe work on a volley or an overhead. You work on ground strokes and reverse it. So if you go 1-2, bam, the next thing hits you because you're ready to hit an overhead. So you avoid that. Okay. So let's see what kind of numbers Gelhard is going to write down here, and then we'll have you go over on the other side. Steve will show you a little bit about movement, and then you'll try and use the ball machine to hit it back. And if it goes too fast, when you're here, you can slow it down and make it work that way. And also volleys. And the neat thing about this machine is you can attack it. So Steve, if he wants, can set it so that he hits the ground stroke. He comes in, picks up one ball at the service line, comes in for a volley, and comes in for a real close volley. Then the ball's going to be passing him by when he gets ready for the next shot. Or the next person in line does the same thing. So you can attack the ball machine. You hit and come in, and you make the settings so they go to the same spot, pretty much. Okay, so some of you, let's see, I'm going to write down some numbers here, or maybe somebody can see. I had cataract, he had surgery, I had cataract, and these are tennis glasses, they're not seeing glasses. So somebody tell me what those numbers are, and I'll write down for ideal, for 1. I think For height, we're about a 6. And the next one is speed, and that was a 5. Next one was spin, and that was at a 0. And the last one was ball frequency, so we're up to about a 7. And also the frequency on the other side, ball frequency, and this is delay, which is a 7. For the lob, what did we find out works? So anybody want to read it? So what did it say about the height? What number? You're looking at the second column.
Second column.
You're looking at this little white.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the first one.
Okay, here
The
it
height.
is. The height should be
Oh, I
at
can't
8,
see it.
all the
My
way.
side.
It's all the way as 8.
Okay.
Okay, what's the next one as far as speed?
2.
2.
And then 2
Yeah.
for the final one.
And 2 is the spin. Okay, so that might be our go-to numbers when you want to use the ball machine. Okay, do you want to take your rackets and have Steve do a little bit of demoing? We're going to have 2 lines, so we'll change this thing. Somebody come up here and say, okay, here's how we're going to do this, Coach. We're not going to do any lob, so everything's going to be a 1. All right? So what numbers do you think we want on that side to hit? What number? Look at the here, at the court, and tell me what number we probably should set this for. We want 4 hands on that side. 2? 2, very good. So let's make this a 2. And you want another 4 hand. So here we go. Coach, come on, buddy. 2. All right, so we got 2 4 hands going. But we want the other side also to have a chance. So the next ball is going to go to the other side. So what numbers do we have there? 6. 6 would be a good number for a backhand. Very good. So we'll go 6 here. And then if we're lazy, we can say again. So, okay, we'll just alternate 4 hands and backhands. Any questions there? Does that make sense? So we're going to have 2 lines. So you'll be hitting, we're not asking Steve to run back and forth, although he's fast enough to do that. We're asking him just to hit some 4 hands, hit backhands. And what you do is you get in line and you hit about 5 shots and let the next person come in. And whoever just finishes goes to the backhand. They hit 5 shots. Let the next person come in and just have 2 lines. And you demo how this works. Does that sound fair? Okay? And nothing in the net. Because if you do net, you do push-ups, so you get big and strong like me.
And remember, for those of you who just did the drill, the wind is going that way.
Yeah.
So you better aim higher and harder.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to
So
have
I'll
trouble
stand
getting-
at the net for a little while and tell you to hit the ball over my ball spot. Okay, here it
But
is.
he will not stand in the middle of the court
With the ball
in
machine
front of the
coming.
ball machine. And my suggestion is never walk in front of the ball machine while it's still on, whether
Oh,
it's
correct.
remote, on, or paused, because you don't know. When you shut it off on the side and the machine is not making noise anymore, then you can start walking in front of the machine.
Okay. Real quick, a true story. I had a friend who was a good tennis player up in Door County, Wisconsin. He's also an athlete. He's riding his bike down a steep hill. A lady does not see him, cuts in front of him, over the whole car, in a coma for 2 months. He is so bad he can't still read, although he can talk real well. And he, after 2.5 years, he tried to do tennis again. Everything was in the bottom of the net. And I said, I'm almost done with the lesson. Hang on, I'm going to show you something. So I went over there and I said, start going over my ball spot. Right away, he did. And the backhand, he was hitting one hand. I said, well, buddy, he was a 2-hander, right? Yep. I said, put the other hand on that racket over my ball spot. He did. He was serving. He said, Jim, that changed my life. He said, I play tennis 4 times a week now. He was ready to quit.